Strike two for Bobby Hurley as Koa Peat commits to Arizona. How much longer is his leash?
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thanks, as always, to all of you for tuning in to make Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Real quick, happy opening day to everyone who celebrates. Hopefully you do. Let's go Diamondbacks. Koa Peat is committing to Arizona. What happens now for ASU recruiting? What is the top priority for the team? All that is coming up on today's edition of the show. But we start with my overall thoughts, and I have to give you guys my reaction. When I woke up today and I saw the news that Koa Peat was going to be announcing his commitment on the Pat McAfee show at 9:10 in the morning, I will tell you, I was nervous would be an understatement. I basically accepted he was not going to be coming to Arizona State at this point in time. After a year plus and months and weeks and days of confidence that ASU was going to land Koa Peat, when the day finally came around, I was like, it's not happening. He is not coming to Arizona State. It felt like it was going to be between us, U of A, and Houston. Now, for what it's worth, Texas and Baylor were also in his finalists. It always felt like it was going to be between those three. And quite frankly, it felt like he was going to stay in state. From what I am to understand from some people that I have spoken with in the recruiting world, is that the decision was made hours before he announced his commitment. And it sounds like things were starting to go sour with the relationship with Bobby Hurley. What a surprise. When you consider everything that's been going on at Arizona State for the last several months with the basketball program, it's not a surprise that things are starting to sour a little bit for anybody, let alone a 17, 18-year-old kid who is looking towards the future of his professional basketball career. I mean, he's going one and done. He's going one and done, and he's going to be a top pick in the 2026 NBA draft. There's like no question or doubt about it, unless he just falls flat on his face. There's a reason he was one of the top recruits in the nation, one of the highest rated recruits in the state of Arizona. He was obviously the number one this year, but I mean, if you stacked him up all time against some of the other guys, I'd be willing to bet that Koa was right near the top, if not at the top. Like, this was a huge, huge opportunity for Arizona State to make the biggest statement they possibly could when it came to recruiting. Last year when they landed Jayden Quaintance and they landed Joson Sanon and they landed Amir Ali, another top 100 recruit in the nation. 2 5-stars and a top 100 recruit. You're sitting there and you're like, holy cow, are things finally changing for ASU? Talk about a statement. Well, this was going to be the statement. This was going to be the offseason where you proved you can recruit guys at a high level on a consistent annual basis. You were supposed to land Koa Peat, and then we were going to look and we were going to go, wow, Jayden Quaintance last year, Koa Peat this year. Jayden Quaintance was just the highest rated recruit that Arizona State has ever landed, and a year later, he's served by Koa Peat. That's what we were supposed to have. And that was what was going to give us the confidence in this program moving forward. That was supposed to be the saving grace for Bobby Hurley. One of the things that we've looked at since we started talking about Bobby Hurley on this show. Why should ASU keep him around? Well, more than anything, it's just you want to be able to enjoy what you have. The idea with Bobby Hurley returning was that you would retain this roster and you were going to be in the thick of it for Koa Peat. Well, you're off to a bad start because Joson Sanon is gone. He was the 3rd highest rated recruit ever. He was a 5-star kid who came in last year with Quaintance. He had declared he was going to be one and done before he even arrived at Arizona State. And he got to the program and he was fantastic. Whether or not you want to take the whole of his season and just look at the box score, or you want to look at when he was healthy, that's up to you. But I've talked about him previously on the show as to why it's such a big loss for Arizona State. If you have not checked that episode out, Go and check it out. Make it your second listen so you can get the full detail of my opinion on Joson Sanon. But losing him, that was really tough. And that was strike one. The moment they lost Sanon, the people that were already angry at Hurley got angrier. The people who were already questioning Hurley had more questions. And then the people like me who were just trying to keep any sense of optimism, because it's hard to buy into this program right now. And I'm doing everything I possibly can to stay positive and believe in some kind of vision that ASU will get this figured out. And that's off to a bad start now that Joson Sanon is gone. So the next step was like, okay, well, maybe we can land Koa Peat and we can at least continue to build on a talented roster. And again, although it sounds like, from what I'm to understand from the people that I have spoken with in the recruiting community, is it came down to this morning, but you know what? Horseshoes and hand grenades. That's what Richie Bradshaw says. Almost only counts on horseshoes and hand grenades. I don't care if it was close. I don't care if you were almost there. You were just outside. You were a couple of hours away. You missed. You missed. That's where it starts and ends. How many times have I said on the show, I don't believe in moral victories? There are no moral victories. You can take something positive out of a loss or a miss or anything like that. But if anyone ever tries to tell me oh, it's a moral victory, I know they lost, but this, that, and the other, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to tell you that you're wrong. I don't believe in moral victories. There's wins and there's losses. It's black and white. You lost. You did not get Koa Peat. You lost. You lose. You get nothing. Good day, sir. I hope you guys understand that reference. If you do, please let me know. That sucks, man. And it affects the immediate future right now, because now you're going to be wondering, well, we got to figure out what we're doing. We can't let any more people leave this roster. We can't continue to lose the support of Sun Devils basketball fans that are already doubting this team, and they're already 10 steps out the door. There's not a lot of reason for fans to be invested right now. You've got a couple of things going for this program to keep you invested, and one of them is not guaranteed at this point in time. Now, the NIL is getting better, and Desert Financial Arena is finally getting some much-needed upgrades to a dinosaur of an arena. They're getting upgrades. It's a multi-year project. Millions and millions and millions of dollars are going to be sunk into it. That's awesome. That is going to be a huge ploy for the future for the recruiting for Arizona State. That's good. Here's the bad. The only other thing you really got going for you right now is Jayden Quaintance. Highest rated recruit in Sun Devil history. He was banged up this past year, but when he was on the court as a true 17-year-old, you sat there and you were like, yeah, I get it. I get it. I see why everyone is so hyped about him. He was so good. And he's just getting started. There's still so much room for him to continue to get better. Defensively, I mean, he's right there. The shooting was progressively getting better down the stretch. I still don't want to see him shooting 3 points, but maybe between now and the start of the new season with some offseason work, he can turn into a deep shooter for the team. There is opportunity here for Quaintance to continue getting better, but there's an equally big chance that he could enter the transfer portal. And if Quaintance enters the transfer portal, that's strike three. And I just don't know how much more leeway you can give Hurley at that point. Top of the show, I said that's strike two. How much longer is his leash? Is it going to be 3 strikes, you're done? Will Graham Rossini look at this and go, you know what? There were stipulations for your return. We needed to keep this roster. We needed to bring in a really good recruit to get people to buy into this team that no one is interested in right now. And no one can blame them. We got 2 strikes. You lost a 5-star kid in Sanon, and you lost out on the Koa Peat sweepstakes. If Jayden Quaintance leaves, that is strike 3. I'm done. There's nothing to defend him for at this point in time. And I don't even know if I'm defending him. The only thing I got right now is I just want Jayden Quaintance to stay. That's pretty much it. Like if Bobby Hurley stays and Jayden Quaintance stays, fine. I'll do another year because I don't want to lose Jayden Quaintance. That's how desperate I am as someone who covers the Sun Devils and someone that's a fan of Sun Devils basketball. I want something to be able to watch, and Jayden Quaintance is something to watch. If he's gone, I got nothing. Why would I watch? Why would I watch ASU basketball? Unless they get Al Golden, or not Al Golden. I always say Al Golden. Todd Golden. Unless they get Todd Golden to be their next head coach, or they start landing all sorts of five-star transfers and whatnot. We're going to talk about transfers here in a second, but there's not much for me to buy in at this point in time. This is tough, and Bobby Hurley's hanging by a thread, and I don't know how much longer that thread is, how strong that thread is at this point in time. Let me know what you guys think in the comments regarding whether or not Hurley still has one more chance. Here's what I know is that ASU needs to turn up the recruiting if they are going to find any way to get this ship turned around. That's coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Time to talk to you about our friends over at Monarch Money. If you ever check your bank account and wonder, where'd my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, all sorts of stuff, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, if you would, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center, and you can track all of your accounts, all of your investments, and all of your spending in one place. So you can just stop managing your money and start building your wealth. When I started using Monarch, I had no idea how much money I was spending on food delivery. I'm stuck in the office for the day. I see that there's some kind of no delivery charge on something that I really want. But guess what? That adds up really quick. So when I used Monarch and it pointed it out to me, I'm like, oh, that feels like something that I can start saving money on. I didn't need multiple apps to figure this out, to track my spending. And I can plan long-term goals too now. Managing money with your partner too is smoother than ever. And you can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, all on the same page without any stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off of your first year. Thanks as always for tuning in to Locked On Sun Devils to make us your first listen of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. The only thing that ASU has at this point to help them turn this thing around is recruiting. It's an interesting situation that ASU finds himself in right now. Currently, this 2025 recruiting class technically has 3 players. You have Kash Polk, Fridrik Leo Curtis. I don't think it's Frederick. I think it's Fridrik. Fridrik. Fridrik Leo Curtis. They have Trevor Best, but Trevor Best is already with the team. He was able to early enroll because he graduated high school over the winter semester. He gets to Arizona State. It takes him a little bit of time to get on the court. Eventually, he gets out there, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's a good basketball player. I'm excited to see what the future holds for him. So he is technically a part of the 2025 recruiting class. I don't know how that works long-term. I don't know if this counts as a season for him. I don't know if this counts as a redshirt season for him. It's going to be really interesting. And if you know, let me know in the comments so that I am in the loop, because it's a very interesting, fluid situation. He plays 10 games last year. He averages just over 11 minutes, 3.4 points per game, shoots 40% from the field, 46.2% from deep. There is potential here for Trevor Best, and there's also an opportunity lined up for him to be a starter for this team. Meanwhile, look at Kash Polk, 3-star power forward, and Fridrik Leo Curtis, who is a 3-star center. That's awesome that ASU is going to be continuing to add size with Richie Bradshaw, at least, that has been calling out this program for the last few years to get bigger, and they are getting bigger. Fridrik Leo Curtis is your 7-footer. That'll be the second 7-footer on this team, unless Jayden Quaintance does actually continue growing. Quaintance is 6'9" right now. There were people who were saying he's not done growing. Maybe he can get to 7 feet. I don't know. For now, I'm assuming he's done, and as a 6'9" power forward. And then Kash Polk is a 6'8" power forward. So ASU is getting bigger. This is something that I've called out. It's good to see that they're continuing to do that. So as of right now, there are 3 3-star kids. Kash Polk is a 3-star. Fridrik Leo Curtis is a 3-star. And Trevor Best, it's not on 24/7, so I had to look other places. Rivals and On3 have him as a 3-star. So there you go. He looks better than 3-star for what it's worth. And now we got to see what ASU does for the rest of their recruiting, because they've been in on multiple guys. It wasn't just it wasn't just Koa Peat. There was the kid who committed to Baylor. I'm going to look him up right now because I can't remember his name off the top of my head. They were in on him. He ends up going to Baylor. If I understood correctly, back then it was something to do with NIL opportunities, because his family is out of the country and he's trying to help and support them and everything like that. So that was a big deal for him. And ASU was hot on the trail, but they were not able to close the deal. So that was already one big miss, was ASU was not able to hang on to him. Tande Yesufu. I know I did not pronounce his last name correctly, but he was someone that they were really in on and came up short. So you already missed on one high 4-star / 5-star. You just missed on what would have been the greatest recruit in the program's history. So you got to keep going. 3 kids right now, 3 3-stars. It's not that that's bad. It's not that ASU is required to recruit 5-stars and 4-stars and everything like that. Now, Bobby Hurley does do that on a very consistent basis. 17 of the top 25 highest rated recruits in program history, according to 24/7 Sports, have come under the Bobby Hurley era. Like, he recruits. I would not be surprised if ASU does find some kind of marquee name here, whether it's a transfer. They did get a transfer today, and we'll talk about that in a second, or if they are able to get one of these 4-star guys that they're in on. That'll come up towards the end of the show. But as far as recruiting is concerned, first of all, let's keep what we have. Let's not lose Polk. Let's not lose Leo Curtis. Let's not lose Best. Let's hold on to what we have, because this is a depleted roster that a lot of it is gone because of graduates and all that. And now you just lost one of your best young players. You need to keep these 3 guys. I don't care that they're 3-stars. I wouldn't care if they were walk-ons. I don't care if they're 5-stars. Nope, it doesn't matter. You need to hold on to them. You cannot lose these kids under any circumstance. You just can't. I don't care that they're 3-stars. I don't care if they're outside the top 500 recruits. And I don't care what anybody says, because people will look and they'll go, oh, they're not recruiting very well. Like, we do that with football. People look at what ASU football is doing and they're like, oh, they're only recruiting 3-stars. No, they're recruiting football players who help build the program. And now look what the football program is doing. So with basketball, yeah, I don't care that it's 3-stars. I don't care that it's 5-stars, walk-ons, 2-stars, whatever. ASU just needs to have an emphasis right now on building this roster up and having guys that are interested in playing for a program that is in the dumpster, and like a stinky dumpster too. Like, this thing has not had anyone pick it up in months. There is a grease trap right next to it. Like, it's as stinky as it's going to get. So finding anyone to enroll in this university and commit to this basketball program is important. You need to hang on to these 3 kids. Kash Polk, Fridrik Leo Curtis, Trevor Best. Make sure they don't go anywhere. We already talked about Jayden Quaintance. We'll discuss that more in detail later. Now they need to attack the transfer portal. That's going to be the next part of your recruiting class. Last year, ASU was all over the transfer portal. They were bringing in guys left and right, and they brought in several starters. They bring in Alston Mason, who was arguably the team MVP last year. They bring in Bashir Jihad, someone that I said was my team MVP for a certain point in time. BJ Freeman was brought in. He was the leading scorer on the team before he was eventually removed from the team for disciplinary reasons. Brandon Gardner transferred in. Austin Nunez transferred in. Unfortunately, we didn't get anything out of either of them due to injury or just not being able to get onto the court. Like, they brought in 5 guys last year. They went 3 of 5. And Austin Nunez, I think he is coming back. I think there's a role for him, but we will wait and see. So right now, how is recruiting getting affected? You need to be more aggressive than ever. There's 3 kids in this recruiting class for freshmen. I want to double it. I'd almost say you need to double it. I don't know if you guys realize how many people are gone. It's you already lost Freeman. You're losing Alston Mason. You're losing Bashir Jihad. Brandon Gardner has entered the transfer portal. Joson Sanon has entered the transfer portal. Adam Miller is out of eligibility. Bobby Hurley Jr. is out of eligibility. Bryson Long is out of eligibility. It's like the whole roster. Almost the whole roster is gone. So, yeah, I don't care how many people it takes to bring them in. Bring in 6 freshmen and 6 transfers. You know what? It is what it is. Right now, we just got to do what we got to do. And I mean, these guys could also be seeing significant roles too. Like, yeah, these are 3-star players, but you could see Kash Polk and Leo Curtis as depth players that end up getting time off the bench. And Trevor Best, he's got an opportunity to be a starter. At worst, he's probably your 6th man right now. And then you bring in your first transfer is Moe Odum. I have no idea if he's related to that Odum. He is a 4-star transfer. So there we go again. Coming from Pepperdine. Last year, he played and started 35 games. He played over 33 minutes a game. 13.1 points per game. He shot 45% from the field, right about 38% from 3, and just under 80% from the free throw line, which is obviously a welcome addition for ASU. That's a good start. That's a really good start. And he's already been described by some people as the point guard. He's going to run it. He's your starter. He's Alston Mason. He is already being slotted into that role. Before he has even arrived to Tempe, we're looking at him. We're like, yep, there he is. There's your starting point guard. That's the guy who's going to run the team, set everything up, hopefully be your leading scorer. We already got that figured out. Trevor Best is already potentially in line, and who knows what happens with Polk and Leo Curtis. They could also be in for big roles. What is the top priority for ASU? Well, it's not just recruiting. We're going to talk about that coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to talk about our friends over at Nissan, because here at Locked On Sun Devils and the Locked On Podcast Network, we're all about the stats because numbers don't lie. And when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X, the numbers are on an MVP level with the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds. It can quite literally carry the whole team plus the gear wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. With room for up to 8 people, the Armada Pro X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights in the new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
And again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to make Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day. A shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. What are the top priorities for the Sun Devils? We already talked about recruiting. That will actually be the number 2 priority. Richie, what's number 1? Come on, you know what number 1 is. It's retaining this roster. Under no circumstance can you lose more guys, but more than anything, it's Jayden Quaintance. You cannot lose Jayden Quaintance. That's where it starts and ends for ASU. Because if you lose Quaintance, it's over. It has never been more over. Game over, man. Game over. That's another reference. If you understand, please let me know. We're dropping some awesome references today. You can't lose him, man. You can't lose JQ. Whatever it takes. I don't care if it's NIL and you got to throw 90% of it at him. You can give 100%. And I'll donate. I'll download the Roy app, which if you guys don't have the Roy app, you should get the Roy app because you can send your money directly to the players for NIL. It doesn't go through everyone else. So that's what it takes. If it takes me downloading Roy, if it takes the university giving him whatever NIL he needs, if it's about other companies within the Valley, to have them invest their company assets into him, right? Whatever it takes. Keep his teammates around. Keep Trevor Best around. That's a really big one. Bring in some guys that are former teammates. We're going to talk about one of them in a second. That should be way at the top of ASU's priority list right now. Do whatever it takes. There are no exceptions. Does he want a new coach? Let's do it. Does he want something specific from the coaching staff? Sounds good. You let me know. You want me there at 2 a.m.? I'll be there at 1:30. Whatever it takes to keep Jayden Quaintance, you do it. You treat him like he is the face of a pro franchise. Treat him like he's Patrick Mahomes for the Chiefs. Treat him like he is, who's the first big NBA player who comes to my mind? You know what? We'll just go LeBron James. Treat him like he's LeBron James for the Lakers. Like he's Shohei Ohtani for the Dodgers. Make him that priority. He is that important to Arizona State University right now. You can't lose him. If you lose Quaintance, it's over. It's over for Hurley, or at least it should be. And it's over for any hope you might have for this year and beyond, unless you just nail a hire. Coach K is coming out of retirement. Okay, well, maybe I can buy in a little bit. Todd Golden's coming back home. He's a Valley guy. Okay, maybe I can buy into that. Dan Hurley decided to replace his brother. Yeah, I can get on board with that too. Unless you do something like that, and it's very unlikely you do, it's going to be hard to buy into this program. They might give Richie Bradshaw, the host of Locked on Sun Devils, a phone call to coach a sport that I've never even played in any kind of rec league. Yeah, I'm the reason that people joke that white boys can't shoot. That's me. That's my fault. My bad, everyone. They've got to figure out something, man, when it comes to holding on to this roster. It's obviously it starts and ends with Jayden Quaintance, but you need to hold on to some of your other guys as well. 4 guys that are returning that all could see very important roles. Trevor Best, we've talked about him. There is a chance that he can find a starting role for this team. At worst, he's your 6th man. And I think he's your 6th man by quite a bit, unless ASU is just bringing in transfers like it's nobody's business. Trevor Best is on the fast track for a starting role. You also got to bring back Austin Nunez. I mentioned him. I know he's hurt. I know. And that's been his issue throughout his career. I understand. But if he stays healthy, that is a starter. In fact, that is probably your deep shooter. And I would imagine he would replace Adam Miller in a role as a starter and somebody that you put the ball in his hands and you just let him shoot. And when he's on, he's on. You got to hold on to him. Shawn Phillips Jr., can't lose him either. That's your big man. And he grew into his role. His first season out here, I said that he played way too soft for a guy that as big as he was. And then this year, yeah, he figured out how big, strong, and powerful he was. And he was a dominant presence on the court to the point where ASU, who doesn't really start big men in recent years, yeah, he started way more often than we've seen big men start previously. Like, we saw him start as much as Warren Washington was a few years back. And I think Shawn Phillips was even more reliable at that point in time. Yeah, you got to hold on to him. He's a starter, and he's the big man on this team. Amir Ali, can't lose him either. Former top 100 recruit, might have been a top 50 recruit, depending on what source you were using. He also figured it out down the stretch, and he is also in line to be a starter. In fact, I don't think there's any way that he's not a starter next year because of how good he was down the stretch, and he was starting games down the stretch. You can't lose Amir Ali. That is probably priority number 2. You can't lose Quaintance. You can't lose Ali. Have to hold on to those 2. That's priority number 1. Priority number 2 is the recruiting. We already talked about this a little bit. I want to point out some names that I want to see ASU paying special attention to. Number 1, there are 2 4-star in-state players who haven't committed yet. Neither of them have committed. In fact, if you go on to 24/7, they don't have any teams or programs that are listed with that warm status as like a potential final destination kind of thing. They're wide open. It's 4-star Jayon Pitt and power forward, Jayon Pitt, and 4-star center, Maker, I think is how you say that. Both of them, funny enough, are at Bell Vista Prep out in Scottsdale. Recruitment is wide open. By the way, for Maker, go to ESPN to see his stuff, because 24/7 shows he doesn't have any offers. ESPN shows he's got offers from ASU and Oregon. I imagine it's more than that, but ASU has offered this kid, and they have offered Pitt. Right now, they're wide open. Find a way to bring them in. There are 2 more guys that are out of the state that I would be taking a look at as well. 4-star power forward Trent McLean, who plays at SoCal Academy in California. Open recruitment right now. Take a look at him. And then this is the guy that, honestly, with the recruits, including in-state, he's probably my number 1. Marcus Jackson, a 4-star center from Word of God Christian Academy. If that sounds familiar, it should, because that's where Jayden Quaintance and Trevor Best played high school basketball. So Marcus Jackson needs to shoot up your list of priorities for recruiting, because that's going to go a long ways in making sure Jayden and Trevor stay. Bring in their former teammates, and that's also going to create some instant chemistry for this team. It gives you that juice because they know how to play together. And you're talking about incredibly talented kids. A 5-star kid with Jayden Quaintance, a 4-star kid with Marcus Jackson, and then a quote-unquote 3-star kid with Trevor Best, who is playing very good basketball from the time that we've gotten to see him. You have those 3 together. I at least think you're competitive, more so than you were this year. I think that's a great start. And then you retain the other guys as well. Shawn Phillips returns. Amir Ali returns. Also, bring in Marcus Jackson, who is listed at 6'8", 230. I know it's a little smaller for a center. In fact, Jayden Quaintance is a little bigger, but you have Jackson, Quaintance, and Phillips playing together on the floor. In theory, that solves your rebounding problem. There's a lot of 3-stars that are holding offers as well. Like I said, I don't need 5 stars. I don't need 4 stars. I'm just give me guys. Give me guys who want to be at this program. If your recruiting class is 10 3-stars, cool. Sounds good. Let's run it. We need guys at this point. Priority number 3, this is the very last thing, is attacking the transfer portal. Bobby Hurley, if there's one thing that he has done very well over the last handful of years, it's attack the transfer portal. He has brought in some very, very, very good players. In the 2022-23 season, he was able to bring in Warren Washington and the Cambridge brothers and Frankie Collins. They helped us get to the tournament that year. 2 years ago, Frankie Collins returned, but then they bring in Adam Miller, they bring in Shawn Phillips, they bring in Jose Perez. Perez was a very good player. Very weird ending to his time in Tempe. They didn't do anything with it, but at least they had guys that were producers and starters for the team. And then this past season, they brought in starters across the board. Bashir Jihad, BJ Freeman, Alston Mason all found starting roles right out the gate. So if there's one thing that could help this program figure it out, it's a transfer portal. And there's a lot out there. There's lots of 5-stars and there's lots of 4-stars. It's not like the college football transfer portal where maybe you get 2 5-stars that enter the portal. Not the case. Across the board, all 5 positions on the court have 5-star players. Take a look at them, sure, but you don't need to prioritize getting 5-star players for the 100th time. Just get guys who want to be here. You know who might want to be here that you should put at the very top of your list is Frankie Collins. Yep, that Frankie Collins played 2 years at ASU, transferred to TCU last year. He only played 9 games before he was injured. He's back in the portal, so he has that one last year of eligibility. He's been at Tempe. He played 2 years at Tempe. Head coach Bobby Hurley still here. He knows the system, and he knows that he'll get starting time. I understand you just brought in Moe Odum, and that Odum is going to more than likely receive a starting role for Arizona State, and it would be that point guard role, which is what Frankie Collins would be looking at. But that doesn't mean you don't find a spot for him on the court. You can get both of them out there, have that consistency as guys who can score. And if you remember with Frankie, he's a great rebounder, even at 6'1", and he set the single season steals record for the team. Jayden Quaintance just set the freshman single season record for blocks. If you get a guy that just blocks passes every single game and a guy who steals every single game, and you have these guys who can box out and finally figure out how to rebound, and you might have some deep shooters available, wow, suddenly maybe ASU basketball isn't going to be in the toilet. It's not over yet. You lose Koa Peat. What a blow, man. And it is very easy. It is very easy for ASU fans to get discouraged. And I don't blame you, because as a fan myself, I am still a fan, even though I run this podcast to keep you guys informed and all that good stuff. I am still a fan. I am very discouraged with where ASU is at right now on the basketball court. It sucks. It sucks. There's no other way to describe it. But there's still time to get this thing turned around. It's going to take a lot. But let me try and lay out the perfect formula here as we end the show. Let me lay out a perfect formula. Number one, let's bring Frankie Collins back. Number two, let's get Marcus Jackson to commit, the guy from Word of God, to come and play with ASU. Number three, let's make sure nobody leaves this roster. In fact, let's reorganize it to keep Jayden Quaintance number one if we want to separate them. But your priority should be holding on the Quaintance to Best, to Ali, and to Phillips. Keeping Austin Nunez is a huge luxury for the team. It would suck to lose him. It would be awesome to bring him back. If you can retain those guys, Quaintance, Best, Ali, Phillips, Nunez, you retain them. Marcus Jackson comes in with the other two recruits as well. You are able to have Moe Odum come in. You bring in Frankie Collins. That's 10 guys right there that should be able to get you excited. Find a way to get some other recruits in. Find a way to attack the transfer portal in other ways. Maybe ASU can figure this thing out, even though we are entirely discouraged right now. What is your top priority for Sun Devils basketball now that they are out of the Koa Peat sweepstakes? Let me know in the comments, or you can hit me up at Twitter at RichieBrats36, or the podcast is there as well at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications, and you'll get the update whenever we post new content. I appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning in to Locked On Sun Devils to make us your first listen of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Thanks as always, guys. We will be back later on this evening to cover today's practices for ASU Sun Devils football. I got to talk about some guys who stood out to me once again. Rodney Bimich had a big day, but keep an eye out for some of these guys who are building on strong practices as well. I'll see you tonight to catch you up on everything for free, no paywall. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.